Okay, well, my world is very simple. I have been learning and teaching and applying math for 8 decades,
Okay.
80 years.
Okay. Then that should simplify things. So we'll start at the top. It's wonderful to
And,
meet you. Yeah, no, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, go on.
Oh no, you had the calculator. You were going to say something else.
Well, what I've been doing now for the last 10 years, first of all, for most students, learning math has been a challenge and a struggle, and they've not learned math very well at all. And it's not their fault. It's really the way it's been taught in our schools. I was a victim of it too. I was told when I was a freshman in high school that I would never go to college
Wow.
because I didn't do well in algebra.
Yeah.
But then I got a good algebra teacher. I was in Greencastle, Indiana. I had at DePaul University was there. My senior year in high school, I took algebra at DePaul, had a great professor, and did well in it, and went ahead and he got me to Oberlin College. Then I got a Ph.D. in algebraic number theory. Anyway, and I've been applying math to him. Now, the problem with math has been the old manual techniques are very difficult to learn.
Yeah.
So first of all, for your arithmetic, today you use a calculator. And I teach you how to use a TI-30XA,
Yeah.
a $10 calculator. This calculator would have been worth $1 million during the Manhattan Project
Yeah. Yeah.
because you can do calculations with it. Either you they're very difficult and error prone manually, or you can't even do them manually.
Yeah.
I teach my students how to use this calculator in 16 lessons, online tutorials off of Amazon Web Services, notes and exercises. They love it, and it turns them around psychologically. It gets them, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Then I teach them practical algebra and geometry and trigonometry. All three subjects kind of go together in about one semester.
Wow. That's amazing.
And there's only one grade, A.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they're not going to go to college, they're ready for the military. They're ready for a technical program. There's 1,000. I had a company once that we trained technicians all over the country. One of
Yeah.
my many things I applied math to, and we trained thousands and thousands of technicians in 50 different subjects: hydraulics, pneumatics, electrics, so on. Practical math is the key to that. If you know practical math, they're all easy.
Yeah.
If you don't know practical math, they're difficult,
Yeah.
maybe impossible.
Yeah.
That's the first 2 tiers of a 6-tier program. Then I go on in tier 3. I get people ready for the SAT if they're going to go to college. Now, at that point, are they ready for science and engineering? No. You now need math at a much deeper level for science and engineering. And with the old manual tools, it's extremely difficult. Difficulty level of 8. I use a new modern tool. Came out in 2009. And it makes math now for science engineers from difficulty level 8 down to 2. It's a fantastic tool. Totally transforms the way you learn math and the way you do math for science and engineering. The tool is called Wolfram Alpha.
Yeah.
It came out in 2009, and that's in my upper tiers 4, 5, and 6. By the way, I go all the way through calculus, both integral and differential calculus and integral calculus, and differential equations, which is never taught in high school. And I have students now by the time are 16 or 17 years old. They're ready for MIT. They know more math than any graduate of any ordinary public school in this country.
So how did this happen? Take me back to the beginnings. How did this math bug grow and become something that is your passion?
I remember Pearl Harbor. It happened 1 week after my 3rd birthday. I'm 86 years old today as of this meeting. My uncle Jack Davis was a barber and a builder, and when I was 5 years old, he taught me how to count using Cheerios. And then I was enrolled when I was 5 years old in a public school in Putnamville, Indiana, 8 grades and 4 rooms. Didn't even have indoor plumbing. It had outhouses
Wow.
to go to.
Yeah.
And I was the only child that had been taught to count because the parents were all working in World War II. This is 1943 now.
Yeah.
And I can't sing. I can't skip. I'm colorblind. I was the dumbest kid in the class. But when Miss Lewis got us up to teach us how to count, I was the only one that had been taught And so she got me to help teach the children. So I had my first teaching experience when I was 5 years old, teaching my classmates who were a year older than me how to count.
Yeah.
And that gave me self-esteem. And it went on from there. And then I didn't do well in algebra in high school. I told you that already. And I was told I wasn't going to go to college. No one in my family had ever gone to college. And they said, no, you're not college material. But I had a good geometry teacher. And by the way, I tell all this in a book. I wrote a book called How and Why Public School Math is Destroying the USA.
Yes.
You get a free copy of this on my website, a PDF copy for free. Or you can
Sure.
buy it on Amazon for less than $5.
Yeah.
And I tell my story. I tell all this in there in great detail. And I had this great geometry teacher. I did good in geometry. And she recommended my senior year that I go to DePaul and take college algebra because I had not done good in algebra in high school. The reason is I had a bad teacher. Nobody knew that, but I found that out. And Dr. Clint Gass, chairman of the math department at DePaul, I got an A, and he got me to go to Oberlin College. I taught high school for a year after I graduated. I came back, and then I taught the advanced theoretical math at DePaul when I was 22 years old. Now, I am not a genius. I'm not brighter than just about, I'm maybe a little bit above average, but not much. Anybody can learn this. He got me, got me to go to graduate school. I went to graduate school. I hate math tests. I don't think there's any such thing as a good math test. I didn't get a master's degree, but I did do some research in math and learn math. And so they gave me a Ph.D. and told me to, and then I was a professor for 7 years. I enjoyed it, teaching theoretical math. And then I started applying to business, and I've done all sorts of businesses with it. And I could spend a long time on that. I tell a lot of that in this book. Now, what I do, there's 5 parts of the book. In part, the first 3 parts, I'm sort of telling you this, my story.
Sure.
In part 4, in 4 chapters, I tell you what's wrong with public school math. And it's not the teacher's fault, by the way. They're victims too.
Yeah.
Don't blame the teacher. They're victims too. And then in part 5, I tell you the new program we've got, thanks to modern technology, that solves the problem. And any student today now can learn math relatively inexpensively. My program isn't very expensive because of the way it's delivered. Uh, Tutorial videos off Amazon Web Services. People have to print out the notebooks. Now, Amazon prints them for almost, well, not for free, but very inexpensively
Yeah.
and things like that. And so I have, most of my students today are homeschool students,
Okay.
but any student can do it at home. So this doesn't just apply to homeschool students. Then what happened a couple of years ago, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I had a lot of friends that a lot of my students said, there's so much more you know than math that you've learned in your life. You've had a fantastic life, which I have had, but it's kind of unbelievable, really. And so I started putting together what I call wisdom tools, things that I've learned that help me have a good life. And so now I have formed a triad math tribe, and people can join it. They get access to all my math training, but also a whole bunch of wisdom tools that help me and improve my life.
Yeah.
And they can learn those. And most people, if they will join the triad math tribe, they will it'll probably improve their life in a very dramatic way
Sure.
in multiple different ways. It depends on the person. Different people are different. Some of them, the math alone will do it. Some of them don't want the math, but they need other things. And
Yeah.
so the wisdom tools help them. For example, I'm like a lot of people in life. I've had ups and downs and I've had challenges. Um, I drank a lot of whiskey one time. There was a time in my life when I drank a quart of whiskey every day.
Yeah.
I overcame it. How did I do that? Well, I explained that in a wisdom tool. You have addictions, you have habits, and your habits are going to determine the actions you take and the consequences you have. And that's the wisdom tool part of the Triad Math Tribe.
Sure. So, how has math consistently been your passion to help open that door up to people, to write your book, to affect so many people, and to get them into this place where it's not that you demystify it, where you make it attainable? How did this happen? How has this been your passion?
Math is like the greatest game ever played. It's better than chess. It's better than poker. I play a lot of games,
Yeah.
In fact, math helps you play some games. When I went to college, I went through college, got all the way through Ph.D. with no debt.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my wisdom tools is if you want to go to college today and study, if you want to go to college, how can you do it with no debt? And I explain how to do that. That's one of my wisdom tools. Okay. Math is like a game. And when it's taught properly, the right content, the other problem I have with math today and have had is they teach a lot of theoretical stuff that's obsolete. I mean, that you don't care about. The other thing is they teach old manual tools that are difficult and obsolete. I don't teach the manual tools. I don't teach the theory that you don't care about. How much math do you know yourself?
Oh, I know a decent amount. I mean, I didn't get into calculus and high level, but I knew enough. I got a bachelor's degree and went through school and made it through. So,
Well,
uh,
here's a question for you. Just a
yeah,
quick question. In algebra, in an algebra book, one of the things they'll have in it is the square root of 2 is an irrational number.
right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Why do you care? Have you ever used that fact for
No,
anything?
no, no.
There's no scientist or no engineer or anybody practical that cares about that. That's a purely theoretical concept that
Yep.
only theoretical mathematicians care about. Now, I know all about it.
Yeah,
I can teach you all about the square root of 2. In fact, the square root of any integer is irrational if it's not a perfect square.
sure.
And pi is an irrational number. In fact, it's a transcendental. I can tell you something, but I don't teach that
Yeah,
because you don't care. I
exactly.
teach you practical stuff. And it's like a game. Math is like the greatest game ever played. It's also what I call God's language. Math is the same in China and in Russia as it is in the United States. Math is math.
Yeah,
And then it is the tool you use to learn any technical subject
yeah.
or even economics or just how to manage your finances or cooking or landscaping.
So, talk to me a little bit about who's been kind of a hero for you. Who's been that bedrock for you that's inspired you to do what you've done in your life and your career?
Well, the three teachers that saved my life that I wouldn't even have heard right. My uncle Jack Davis, who was a barber and a builder, and he taught me practical math up through the eighth grade. He wasn't a math teacher,
Yeah,
but he would teach me things like when you're building, how do you make a square angle? When you want something to be square, you take string, 3 feet, 4 feet, and 5 feet, and I make a square. Now, he never used the word Pythagorean theorem,
yeah,
but he knew that rule.
yeah,
He taught me how do you make a third of a square angle? You use the 1-2 rule. You probably don't know that.
right.
How do you make a half a square angle? Use the 1-1 rule. He taught me things like that. Okay. Then I had Miss O'Hare for geometry, and she taught me how to prove theorems, which, by the way, I don't teach that because most people don't need to know that and care. But but that let me know I could learn math. And then Dr. Clint Gass was the teacher at college algebra at DePaul University, became my mentor. Those three people were the reason that you're talking to me today. And the fourth person was a Sunday school teacher when I was 10 years old named Theron York. And he taught me the rules of Christianity come out of the New Testament, the rules. And I live by those rules. The obvious one, the most important one is the golden rule. And I've lived by that all my life. He taught me, look, he said, Craig, you don't have to believe in Christ or Christianity, but the golden rule, if you practice it, you'll have a much better life.
Yeah,
And believe me. And there were a lot of other rules too. And I explained that, by the way, in my wisdom tools.
yeah,
Um, everybody lives by rule, whether written or unwritten, you live by rules.
yeah,
And the rules determine the quality of your life
yeah,
because the rules determine the actions you're going to take. The actions determine the consequences. And most things, most actions have short-term consequences and long-term. And sometimes a short-term, like I used to smoke cigarettes.
yeah,
Okay, that's a short-term, makes you feel good, but long-term is going to kill you.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I figured that out. When I learned that, I quit smoking. I smoked for about 10 years
yeah, yeah.
and things like that. So um, I don't know if I answered your question,
You
but
did. You most certainly did. So, as you kind of talk about your life and how amazing it's been, what are you the proudest of? Everything you've accomplished and seen and become, what are you the proudest of?
well, there's no one thing. The thing I'm most thankful for, I'm not that proud of anything because I've been given everything. So I'm not proud, but thankful is a better word for it. The most thankful thing is I told you I married a Colorado soprano from New Orleans, a beautiful gal.
Yeah.
And boy, I mean, I was on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve many years ago. Thank God not not this year.
Yeah.
But and we only stayed married 2 or 3 years because she didn't want a family. She wanted to have a profession, and I wanted a woman that was very intelligent, very beautiful, very sexy, but wanted her career was going to be a wife and a mother and a grandmother. And my last year of grad school, when I was 27 years old, I went to a party that was highly unlikely to go to. And she went to the same party, unlikely. She was 19. I met her, and we just celebrated our 58th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And we have 3 children that are fantastic. They've done wonderful. They have a wonderful life. We have 9 grandchildren. So that's the thing I'm most thankful for. The second thing is I've had many, many, many experiences, business experiences and other kind that have been fun. Theron York asked me when I was 10 years old, Craig, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to have adventures. And the last time I had a job just to make money when I was 17 years old, working on the Pennsylvania Railroad one summer.
Yeah.
I teach this on my wisdom tools. Some things you do for extrinsic motivation, like a job. Others you do for intrinsic motivation because you love to do it.
Yeah.
You play games, for example, because you love to do it. Okay. I say find something, find different things you can do that you're intrinsically motivated, and find something you're intrinsically motivated that people will pay you to do.
Yep. Yep.
And I learned that when I was very young. And the last time I've had a job just to make money was I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Now, I was a professor for 7 years, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I quit that and went into business. Now, I've had many, many businesses that were very successful and then they failed financially.
Yeah.
I built the world's greatest 8th mile drag strip in Terre Haute, Indiana, Action Dragway.
Yeah.
It was very successful for 2 or 3 years. This was back during the early 70s. We had OPEC, we had stagflation, and I went broke. I've been broke twice in my life, but I never worried for money because I could always do things that money would come in as I needed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went on and on. I developed a thing called the Dynabrain in the late 70s using a microprocessor. Again, because of practical math, I could do this. And I developed something to test racing engines on being tested on water brake dynamometers. And my number one customer was I had NASCAR customers. My number one customer was Australian Racing. And I know you're a NASCAR fan at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know about it well
Okay.
enough.
Do you know about Australian Racing? Well,
Yeah.
Rod Australian was from California,
Yeah.
and he had a racing team that was brand new in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they were one of my first customers to buy a Dynabrain, and it helped them have really good race engines. And they had a racer named Dave Marcus, and he wasn't winning, and they fired him. And I'm standing out back one day with Roland Wolotka, who's the general manager, and he said, I said, I hear you fired your racer. And he said, yeah. He said, we've hired a new guy. I said, nobody else would hire him. He said, he's a wild guy, and we're not too sure that, but we think because we're going to give him what he's going to get that he can be a winner. And he said, he's that guy riding that little motorcycle out back here. There's a big lottery in there, this huge facility. He waves him up here. Guy comes up on a motorcycle, and he said, Dale, I want you to meet Craig Hane. He's the guy that got the Dynabrain, and that's the reason you're going to have the best engines out there on the track, and you can win races because you're going to have the best car and the best engines. And part of it's because of Craig and the Dynabrain. Craig, I want you to meet our new racer, Dale Earnhardt.
Wow.
I met him before he ran his first race.
Wow. That's wild.
I knew Richard Petty. I knew Cale Yarborough. I knew all those guys. I knew Junior Johnson. I knew them all. And I thought I was going to make my fortune with the Dynabrain. And Intel quit making the microprocessor, and I couldn't produce it.
Wow.
But what I learned from Theron York was, Craig, you're going to have a lot of experience in your life, and you can define them as successes or failures. That's a definition. But whatever happens, just keep on going, and
Yeah.
the next thing will happen. And here's the thing I thank God for. I failed in business many, many times. The drag strip, a racing gasoline company I didn't even tell you about, the Dynabrain. I had an automotive parts operation I bought on a leveraged buyout that I made a lot of money and it went broke. They all went under. I thank God for every failure because out of that something better happened.
Sure. Sure. So at this point in your life, after all of the things that you've done and everyone that's known you in different spheres, from business to education and beyond, family and friends, everyone has a perception, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, obviously I'm a father
Yeah.
and a husband and all that.
Yeah.
But business wise, I decided I actually went broke at age 70 in 2008.
Well,
The banks, I was worth millions of dollars and the banks took me under. Now I had a good friend who was worth 40 million and they took him under.
wow.
I wasn't worth that much. I was only worth 3 or 4 million. They took me under.
Yeah.
It took me, I fought him in court for 3 years and lost. You can't beat the banks in court.
Yeah.
But then I recovered financially, independent in 2014, 10 years ago. But during that time, I decided the technology had arrived where I can now teach math the way I'd always wanted to teach it using technology to
Yeah.
thousands and maybe millions of people. And so I formed Triad Math in 2011 and began to do that. And my mission today is to train 1 million people the math they need to have successful careers. If you learn the math you need to know, you're going to be able to go out and make yourself $7,500,000 a year at the very least, if not more,
Yeah.
because of the technical career. But you need the math to do it. It's sort of a foundation of a technical career. I learned that when I had Hane training all those years and trained thousands of technicians. So uh, I do this because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying, like right now, I'm in a condition called flow. There's a book called Flow, and I believe you should try to live as much of your life as you can. In other words, talking to you, it's like climbing a mountain. That's all I'm thinking about is
Yeah.
talking to you. I'm
Yeah.
not reading a script, am I?
No.
I'm talking to you. I'm answering questions. Now, so that's what I do. Now, I'm 86 years old and I don't have any aches or pains. I don't take medicine. I exercise. Why? Why? Because I'm very active.
Yeah.
I do 2 or 3 podcasts a day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it. And that's where you want to be. So if anyone out there wants to get involved with Triad, they want to buy your book, they want to delve in, they have questions, how can they do that?
Here's what here's what you do. I have a personal website, craighane.com. CRAIGHANE.com. Just go there. You'll see my picture, my story, lots of free stuff there. But one of the things there will be a free copy of this ebook, PDF. Read it. Read this book. There's also a thing that says improve your life, and it takes you to a thing called the Triad Math Tribe. Spend 2 or 3 hours to learn about it and join the tribe.
Okay.
Anybody joins a tribe, in my view, it costs you $30 a month to join. But if you get other people to join, you get a third of what they pay. You can start making money right away.
Okay. Okay.
And if it isn't worth, if it doesn't transform your life in a dramatic way, I mean, there's no reason today this whole idea about minimum wage and all that's a bunch of bull crap.
Yeah.
You need to live a good life today. You need to make $50 an hour,
Right.
$40. It depends on where you live.
Yeah.
In New York, you got to make a lot more. In Podunk, Indiana. In Kansas City, you don't need that much.
Right.
But, or in Indiana. But anyway, my belief is if you join the tribe, and it's going to be a long-term thing, you're going to be at it. It took me years and decades to learn the things I'm teaching you and applying them. I think you'll have a much better life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So, yeah, no, go ahead.
well, so you go to my website and it tells you all about that. A
Sure.
link to go watch the videos that talk about the tribe, all the advantages of it. And by the way, when you join the tribe, You give your credit card. We don't bill it. We wait 30 days before we actually bill it. And if you don't love the tribe and you get access to everything for that 30 days,
Sure.
just tell us. We don't charge you. It didn't cost you a dime. You were in it for 30 days for free.
Okay. I will make sure to put links in the show notes. This has been a fascinating story. Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful 2025. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.